How does one even begin to describe a game as weird, zany, and full of itself like Death Stranding? Upon release, a lot of reviews from major outlets had positive things to say about it. They almost all came with the caveat, it's good, but may not be for everyone. That's a terrible description of this game and an even worse review summary. The actual gameplay is very simple to discuss once broken down. It's not all that new. There's just a lot of systems in play here. And while most would view the main mechanic of most action games being combat, this action game has very little emphasis on combat, which some might find to be boring. I found it to be very engaging, actually. To have a proper civil discussion about this game, which I know is a lot to ask for, we have to ask ourselves, what's the point? Not in a sarcastic, angry way, but legitimately ask what the point of the game is. To wonder and then engage with that question, honestly and sincerely. This is a game with a message, something Hideo Kojima wants to share with us about himself, and he is using known, quantitative gameplay mechanics set in an extremely high-concept sci-fi backdrop to share how he feels about life. And it can be very on the nose, and sometimes with very mixed messaging. It's equal parts contemplative and campy. So if the phrase, "it's good, but not for everyone," is a terrible one-liner descriptor, what would be a good one-liner that boils down the concept of the game in an easily digestible soundbite that is memorable and accurate to the experience of the title? How about, this game is cuckoo go nuts bananas and you absolutely have to experience the hell out of this insane premise starring a very naked Norman Reedus. To understand Death Stranding, I believe we have to first take into account the events surrounding its inception. It's a well-known story, the Konami-Kojima breakup. Konami decided that they were done with Kojima and ousted him in a strange, passive-aggressive series of events that was played out very publicly. Yet, at the time, Konami denied everything. It was an odd thing to witness. A large corporation was attempting to gaslight their entire customer base in the most obvious, thinly veiled way. It was wild. During all this, Kojima lost his baby, the Metal Gear Solid series, and after each game, he would claim, "This is my last," and each time, it wasn't true. Until it was, and not on his terms. Konami stripped it away from him, and in the most petty of all petty moves, made sure to remove his name from all promotional materials. Someone really had it out for the guy. They wanted to take it away from him and make sure he knew it was taken away from him. Not only did they take Metal Gear away from Kojima, they also canceled his Silent Hills game and went scorched earth with a playable teaser that was released in the PlayStation Store. This was all nuts, and that is an understatement. To add insult to injury, Kojima was legally barred from talking publicly about any of this. His side of the story could only be told secondhand, and he was completely and legally isolated. This for certain had to be an extremely hard time for the guy, who I am sure was hurting and feeling lonely. The company he had spent over 30 years working at and building that brand's legacy in the gaming space tossed him aside as if he was nothing. And during this entire time, they were lying about what was happening. They pretended as if everything was okay. He was just on vacation. Kojima was officially released in the fall of 2015, and in December was finally able to establish his own studio and begin working again after his non-compete clause expired with Konami. He re-entered public life in the gaming industry at E3 in 2016. It was there at E3, Death Stranding was announced, complete with a reveal trailer. As bizarre and obtuse as the reveal was, it was obvious that during the last few months of radio silence, Kojima had fully formed the core idea of what his next game was going to be. And it was even more obvious that the breakup with Konami had a large influence in the themes that would be presented in the game. Internet commentators were already speculating that the baby naked Norman was holding and then losing represented Metal Gear. that may not have been wrong. To understand Death Stranding, it has to be viewed within this context. It appears to be an extremely personal game to Hideo Kojima. It is also self-righteous with way too much exposition that likes to ramble on like your hippie uncle at family gatherings who's trying to sell you his self-published autobiographical ebook.
The unsold copies of Dad's autobiography.
But it's also really great if you take the time to understand it within the context of its inception and the point Hideo Kojima is trying to make. And this is where the bulk of my discussion on the game will be held. The point. We like to make the case that video games are art, and the purpose of art is to explore ideas and express values. Art is a form of communication that speaks not just to the mind, but to the very soul of our being. It can be a commentary on human existence. The greatest of movies, novels, TV shows, paintings, poems, and more, they all focus on the broad idea of what does it mean to be human and how to express that experience. Each individual work zeroes in on specific facets and details of those overarching questions. Art is a process we use to try to answer that big question, the ultimate question of everything.
42.
I mean, that's an extremely overly broad definition of art, obviously, but if we're going to beat the video games are art drum and shout that they should be taken seriously, we need to accept that we're not always going to like or appreciate all art, but that doesn't automatically make it trash. Instead, we need to step outside of ourselves and ask, what's the point? How am I supposed to feel? Am I feeling the very thing the creators want me to feel right now? To fully appreciate Death Stranding, you have to step outside of yourself and ask that question, what's the point? And not in a hypothetical, sarcastic way, but generally ask, what is Kojima's intent here? And thankfully, subtlety is not Hideo Kojima's strong suit, so answering that question can be very, very simple. I'm not asking you to forgive shortcomings. I'm also not saying you're not allowed to not like something. You absolutely are. We each have our personal taste, and time is a limited, precious commodity. If a game isn't jiving with you, you absolutely should not waste your time with it. Life is too short for that kind of nonsense. At the same time, admit that there is merit to the positive reception to something you may not have liked. Let's look into Death Stranding. In short, the story is about Sam Porter Bridges, whose adoptive mother was the president of the United States, now United Cities, after this Death Stranding cataclysmic event occurred, which was a civilization-ending, world-changing event where the realm of the living is now constantly colliding with the realm of the dead. And everything the rain touches accelerates the passage of time, so things age really fast under the rain, which is now timefall. Our boy Sammy is tasked with connecting these isolated cities and prepper stations to the chiral network, which is a new fancy high-speed internet that uses the world of the dead to bring everyone back together. At least that's what I put together. This game is the farthest thing from subtle. You can't even call its metaphors metaphors. They're similes. Do you remember learning about similes and metaphors in school? I do.
Partridge Farm remembers.
To describe this game as a glorified walking simulator isn't completely inaccurate. I don't think I've seen a game simulate the struggles of walking with a giant backpack before and done it this well to boot. Every single mission is a fetch quest, with you taking a package from one location and delivering it to another. You're a mailman! It's often advantageous to take more than one order at a time so you can save on making multiple trips back and forth. But with that, you can have a higher stack of packages on your back, making it easier to fall over and damage that precious cargo you're carrying. It is somehow interesting and gamified, with a very unique take on difficulty curve. The game starts out slow. Walking is a chore in way harder than it should be. And it's not just walking itself that's hard, it's carrying too many packages. It's falling in deep water and getting swept away. It's using your bike to get over a mountain and crashing into rocks. Or driving a truck that gets stuck. Carrying a large, heavy container of materials that affects your balance. Getting caught by the mules who knock you unconscious and take your cargo. And it's a wonderful relief when you finally deliver your packages after an arduous journey. Everything you will need, the packages you need to deliver, the equipment you need to take to traverse the terrain, the replacement shoes you'll need when the ones you're wearing break down, have to carry with you. All that weight and stacks of boxes quickly add up. The very first thing you need to consider is, what do you absolutely need on your journey? Pack too many heavy boxes and walking is a chore. Stack your equipment too high and you'll have trouble maintaining your balance. You'll also have to consider the lost cargo and packages you'll find along the way that can earn you likes and status points if you deliver them to their proper destinations as well. It's very easy for walking to become an arduous task. You may find yourself over-equipping at the start. But it does get easier, and it gets easier rather quickly. All thanks to the
asynchronous multiplayer.
Once you connect areas to the chiral network, ladders, climbing anchors, generators, and other structures, and even vehicles show up that other players have built and left for you to find. Suddenly you don't need all that equipment you thought you did. I can't tell you how many times I started a journey with too much equipment and didn't use a single thing, because someone left something for me to use in the right place, helping me out considerably. For a game played solo, you begin to feel deeply connected and thankful to those who came before and left their equipment for you to use. You're not in this alone. Everyone playing the game is helping everyone out. And now when choosing your equipment, you're not just choosing what you will need for yourself, but also what you want to give back. Sometimes that's building an actual structure, like a bridge, or laying down a ladder. Sometimes it's building a post box and leaving materials for another player to find, all to help each other out. And when you first find something left behind, it instills this desire into you, the player, to leave something else behind for someone else to use. The game established a cool new form of asynchronous multiplayer. Before connecting each new area to the chiral network, you're isolated and alone, fighting the terrain and wondering, why are you even doing this? But once that same area is joined to the chiral network in-game, it comes online in the real world. Other people's structures appear, signs of encouragement pop up, the return trek becomes a lot easier, and you can then add to what people have built. Upgrading structures, adding to their zipline network, or leaving behind a vehicle for someone else to use. It's the most interesting form of multiplayer I've seen. While I know it gets its origins from Dark Souls with its hint system, this takes the idea a step further, and what one person builds, another can add on to it. Like building roads, for example, the pavers require a lot of resources. So much that it would take a long time gathering them from different stations to get the road built. Thankfully, a player in one game can add the materials, and the materials they added show up in yours. Everyone is working together, alone. It's actually kind of beautiful. And that's where we get the point. Death Stranding is a lonely, slow, frustrating experience at first. You're supposed to feel all that. You're supposed to sigh in frustration at Sam's ineptness at walking. You're supposed to get frustrated by the slow pace and the harsh, unforgiving terrain. You're supposed to feel all of that anger and frustration, so that when the area joins the chiral network and other people's structures and tools appear in the world, you become extremely thankful. An odd sort of bond forms, especially after you take advantage of their structure over and over again. For example, during Chapter 3, I used this bridge and this generator I don't know how many times. They became invaluable to me in my deliveries. Without them, I don't know what I would have done. They not only became helpful tools, but also comforting landmarks. And that's the point of Death Stranding. The loneliness, the boringness, the slog of walking with the heavy burden is relieved when you connect to others. Even if you can't see them, or even directly interact with them, you know they're there, and they're helping to ease your burden. And this creates a desire for you to leave something in return for someone else to discover and use. This helping ease their burden. You can add to this interconnected network in whatever way you can and whatever way you want to. In the game, Sam is building connections between strangers who may never meet, but it's strengthening their bond together as a society. The game is doing the exact same thing. I will never meet the person who left that bridge or that generator, but there's a bond there now. I am thankful to them. The point is, we need each other. And in the isolation of modern living, we can and should still be encouraging, loving, and helping one another. even if we never meet or know each other's names. By simply leaving a bridge, a ladder, a generator, a post box with helpful equipment, we're telling a stranger, hey, I left this for you, specifically you, even if I don't know you exactly. And by doing this, you should know that you have value, you are worth helping. While the bulk of this game is walking and delivering, and the difficulty curve is primarily in the terrain changing, there is some combat. And what I found interesting about Kojima games is his emphasis on non-lethal combat, which is ironic since the bulk of his resume is with the stealth action genre a la Metal Gear. In the later titles, there's a strong emphasis on engaging non-lethally with your enemies. So much so that in Metal Gear Solid 5, if you take a strictly lethal approach to combat, you turn into a blood-soaked demon. To understand combat in Death Stranding, we have to explore the lore a little bit. Because of this cataclysmic event of the realms of the dead and the realm of the living colliding, there are now essentially dark ghosts with umbilical cords floating around areas of the world. No big deal, you just need to sneak around them. Oh, holy shit! These are called BTs, which stand for Beach Things, because the world of the dead is a sad beach on the New England coast. Obviously, these BTs make traversing the world a little dangerous, and that's where super mailmen like Sam come in. They deliver things that can't be 3D printed. They brave the elements, so to speak. There are also evil mailmen called mules who like to steal packages to deliver themselves or to just simply hoard. They like to try to knock you unconscious and steal your cargo to do stuff with. I really hope this is not a sex thing. I don't fully grasp their motive here, but later on you do encounter these crazed mules who do more than knock you out. They try to kill you because they're terrorists, which is a risky move because if an untaken care of dead body comes into contact with a BT, it creates a void out, which is a super large nuke-like explosion and creates more BTs. It's not exactly clear what happens, but it's just really bad for a body to explode. So it needs to be burned. You can't just burn the body right there because of chiral something or other, and it has to be taken to a special incinerator so the chiral ash doesn't make you cry, I think. This all sounds so weird to say out loud. I really wish I could explain this better, but I don't know who can without sounding like a crazy person. The tools you are given to take care of human enemies are Ebola guns and a non-lethal assault rifle. You do gain access to a handgun, assault rifle, and a shotgun, but if you use those on humans and kill a guy, you have to take the corpse or corpses to a crematorium, so it's not worth it. Suffice it to say, dealing with human enemies, or any enemies, is really kind of a pain and a chore. But what is fun is when you knock out a mule, he'll drop his cargo. You can then hold one of the triggers to grab the cargo in your hand and use it as a weapon. I like to throw the cargo at other mules, knocking them out in one hit. It makes me kind of feel like Jackie Chan. So killing your enemies isn't worth it. It actually doesn't solve your problems, it creates bigger problems that you then have to deal with. Violence doesn't solve anything, kids. There is value in life. But is it still worth it to engage the mules and knock them all out? When you do that, they go away and other porters freely roam the plains, helping you out and offering you their supplies and packages. What about that? Problem solved. Well, yeah, but the mules just come back and you have to deal with them all over again. They're just a never-ending problem. It's better to avoid and leave them be than it is to engage them. Only engage if you absolutely have to. I found myself taking longer routes around mule territory because they just weren't worth the hassle. Like I said, violence isn't the answer. It literally solves nothing in the long term. Any solution is only temporary, and at what cost? The interesting portion of combat is when you have to engage with BTs. The only thing that harms them is your bodily fluids, because you're special, and your pee and poop have a unique effect on them. What is this game? You can use grenades made out of your own excrement, which acts as sort of a BT repellent. But the thing that really works against BTs is your blood. You have grenades that can be filled with your blood, and bullets that can be filled with your blood, and a rocket launcher that shoots rockets full of your blood. Only your blood can actually do damage to a BT. And here's the rub. Your blood level is also your health gauge. Run out of blood and obviously you die. just like in real life. So not only do you need to have blood bullets and blood bombs, you have to have blood packs equipped that replenish your blood so you don't bleed out. This is the only thing that works against the anus-faced dog ghosts. We really wanted to go with the anus tentacle head. That's the direction. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's scary, but for other reasons. It's not just any blood that can damage BTs, it's Sam's blood and only Sam's blood. His blood is special. But by needing to use your blood to defeat the BTs is a very interesting choice. Killing the BT means effectively somewhat killing yourself. There's a heavy sacrifice you have to make. These are the things that make Death Stranding so interesting from both a story and a gameplay perspective. It's not exactly an exciting game, nor is it subtle or cohesive. This is about the common bond we share as humans, how technology may fundamentally change the course of human communication and interaction, for better and for worse. The instrument for this advancement and connection is both the shackles that binds us from true human interaction, but also the link to remain in touch with each other in a way we never have been able to before. The Death Stranding is an event that has isolated people into literal silos. It's no coincidence that Kojima chose to have most of the interpersonal character interaction happen through holographs. There are very few people you actually interact with in person. It's mainly through terminals, and more so through the cuffs, an image that shows that the instrument of human connectivity is simultaneously the cause of our interpersonal relationship sickness and its cure. I originally played this game in 2020 during the pandemic, and many of us were isolated in quarantine-like situations. Our personal interactions were through Skype, Zoom, and FaceTime. We were projecting our avatars to each other and sometimes only interacting with a person's echo on social media. There wasn't a more timely game back in 2020 than Death Stranding, even though it technically came out at the end of 2019. But back then, we were literally living it. That moment in history changed things. Zoom is still a part of our daily working lives. A lot of our connection is still through digital means. In our current reality, influenced by the events of the pandemic 5 years ago, this is still a good time to experience this crazy game and be able to properly understand the point. I just want to thank you guys for watching. I actually originally made this back in 2020. This is actually the first video I made when I really started this channel before I started the retrospective series. I just decided to update it a little bit, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if there's any other games you'd like me to do kind of a deep dive on, let me know in the comments below, and I'll take it into consideration. Excuse me.